Now, as we've mentioned, some say Stephen Hawking is the most talked about physicist since Albert Einstein. So do get in touch with your comments and your tributes. What was his legacy? Just use the hashtag BBC The Briefing. Britain's most famous scientist, Professor Stephen Hawking, has died at the age of 76. In a statement, his children called him an extraordinary man and said his legacy will live on. Hawking's fame came largely from his best-selling book, A Brief History of Time, which outlined his theories about the universe. He had a brilliant career despite being diagnosed with motor neurone disease in 1964 and being told he had just a few years to live. Nick Hyam looks back at the remarkable life.
He was instantly recognisable and utterly remarkable. The visionary scientist, helpless in his high-tech wheelchair, who nonetheless transformed our view of the universe. While a student, he developed the first signs of motor neurone disease. Gradually, his body shut down, till he could communicate only using a computerized voice synthesizer, controlled to start with by hand. It didn't hold him back.
I was never actually told that I had only 2 years to live, but I could see the doctors didn't think my prospects were good.
His fame sprang from his book, A Brief History of Time. It sold 10 million copies, but though many bought it, rather fewer actually read it. His theories about time, space and black holes were stupendously difficult for non-specialists to grasp, but he turned out to have a genius for communication. He gave lectures and interviews and became an unlikely celebrity. He even appeared in The Simpsons.
I don't like your tone.
If you are looking for trouble, you found it.
Yeah, just try me, you... Oh!
And on an episode of Star Trek, he played poker with Isaac Newton, his predecessor as Lucasian Professor of Mathematics at Cambridge.
Physics. The day that apple fell on my head was the most momentous day in the history of science.
Not the apple story again.
His private life was complicated. With his first wife, Jane, he had 3 children, and she looked after him, until in 1990 he left her for his nurse, Elaine. They eventually married, only for claims to emerge that Hawking had been physically abused. Police investigated, but the case was dropped for lack of evidence. The couple later divorced.
Too often they are told that these are stupid questions to ask, but this is said by grown-ups who don't know the answers.
He never lost his sense of humour, though by the end he could only speak by twitching his cheek to move an infrared beam.
I don't have much positive to say about motor neuron disease, but it taught me not to pity myself and to get on with what I still could do. I am happier now than before I developed the condition.
If general relativity is correct, then the universe is expanding, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so if you reverse time, then the universe is getting smaller.
All right.
In 2014, his life was dramatised in The Theory of Everything, with Eddie Redmayne playing Hawking.
To see what happened at the beginning of time itself.
Stephen, here you are.
At Cambridge, they unveiled a statue of him, a rare honour for someone still living. But few did more to transform our understanding of the universe and to overcome personal challenges.
Nick Hyam there, looking back on the life of the British scientist Professor Stephen Hawking, who has died at the age of 76. Well, let's now go live to San Diego in the United States to talk to Professor Robert Caldwell, a theoretical physicist specialising in cosmology. He was at Cambridge University in the 1990s and was a postdoctoral researcher under the guidance of Professor Hawking. Thank you for being on the programme. Tell us your thoughts with this news emerging in the last few hours. What's your remembrance of him?
Well, it's sad news, and he was a hero to myself and my colleagues. And, we'll remember him for his contributions to physics and also for his spirit. I was at a birthday celebration for him just this past summer. It wasn't his birthday, but the summer has nicer weather than January when his birthday is. And it was a real celebration of his life and contributions to physics. And it was a wonderful reunion of friends and colleagues around him.
What was he like to work with?
Well, you can imagine he was very direct because of his challenges in speaking, but he had a sense of humor that came through in conversation and also in his scientific papers.
Being so remarkable, so intelligent, you would imagine he's quite tough to work under. Was he? Did he have very high expectations of you and those who worked for him?
Sure, but he was a good mentor and gave people space to work and develop their ideas and to work with him. So
in many ways, he's absolutely defied the odds, not just in terms of his life, his life expectancy that was very short when he was diagnosed in his early 20s with motor neurone disease. For you, what stood out about him the most?
Well, I'd always known him in the condition that he had been in the recent years, speaking through this device, and you just sort of thought that he might live forever.
Many of us have seen the film, The Theory of Everything, and it's given us some sort of a sense of insight into who he was, what he was like, his story. For you, I don't know if you've seen the film, did that reflect him well, do you think?
Yeah, I think it gave some insight into what he was like. He had a really remarkable spirit.
Well, Robert Caldwell, thank you so much for talking to us. We appreciate it. It must be quite difficult, actually. Thanks so much for your time this morning on the BBC. And, of course, we've asked you as well for your comments, your memories, what Professor Stephen Hawking meant to you. And we'll share those later on in the programme.